Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. So once again, it's tea time, but today is review day. It is a Tamron review day, to be exact. Now, if you guys remember, a couple of weeks back, I got the Tamron lens in at 24-70, and I said I was going to review it, but I just haven't had time. And then I got sick, as you guys know, for a while, and I finally got to just spend a couple of days with it and really put it through its paces. And this lens is basically the Tamron. It is an SP. I'll give you the full name. It's an SP 24-70 f2.8 DI VC USD G2. Okay, so let me back into that. A G2 means that it's a second generation. That's basically it. A USD simply means that it's an ultrasonic silent drive. So it is silent. That's really good, guys, when you're doing video and you're not hearing zzz, 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 it's going in and out from 24-70, right? Also, VC, what does that mean? VC is basically vibration compensation or image stabilization. Everyone calls it something different, but it's the exact same thing. It's image stabilization. So this is a very well-rounded lens, and I'm basically putting it up against a Canon 24-70 that I've shot for many years now, and just to take a look at how it compares. All right, now I've also taken a look at Sigma, the same 24-70. There's other brands that I've looked at, so I'm kind of looking at this as a direct comparison between the Canon, but I'm also envisioning or thinking about all the time that I had with the other lenses too to make my decision. Now, guys, this is just simply a professional, me, that I've been doing this for 20 plus years, that I'm giving you a real world kind of review on it. I'm not the, DxO guy, Mark, that's doing, literally scientific calculations to figure out what lens is best and all the rest of it, right? I'm not doing that, all right? I'm using the lens and I'm telling you what I think. So if this is something for you, then listen further. But before I get into this review, please, guys, support me. If you haven't went over to my website, JCristina.com, please do so. There's products I've invented. Some of them might be good for you. I also have a free ebook on how to make sharper images. Go check that out at JCristina.com/ebook, and you can get that for free just for watching this. All right? So check that out. Once again, like I said, this is more of a real world review. I took this out literally spur of the moment on this nature walk. We have this amazing 400 or 500 acre just preserve, and I just walked it. And I also got pictures that I've taken locally here. Where I live is in a very equestrian area, and right now we have polo and we also have dressage, so I got some horses and whatnot. The thing here, guys, is I'm looking at it as all of the things that are important to me, and I think will be important to you. So to start out with, we have Chromatic Aberration and Fringing. There was very little with this lens, guys. I was very pleased with it. The small amount that we did see was you were able to simply click a button in Lightroom and it was just gone. All right, so you're talking a very minimal amount. So Chromatic Aberration as well as Fringing, not an issue. Lens flare. Now, lens flare is really important with me because I usually use it to my advantage when I do models and whatnot. I personally like lens flare, but there's good lens flare and there's bad lens flare. The lens flare that I was able to produce with this specific lens was good. It looked nice. It didn't just completely wash out the entire image, and it gave a really cool flare to it. It looked nice. So as far as lens flare, 2 thumbs up for me. I liked it. Now, bokeh. Everyone loves fast glass. Why? Because they love a milky background. They love that bokeh, right? How did it do? Now, there's been people on YouTube and elsewhere that said the bokeh in this is kind of odd, all right? We ended up seeing this onion ring effect. And honestly, guys, I put this thing through its paces, and I shot this thing almost like a macro lens to really produce some crazy bokeh, and I was not able to find this onion ring effect where you're actually in those round little bokeh, little round areas. You see this little ring, almost like the inside of a tree, okay, on the inside. And I didn't get any of that. Now, maybe I got a good copy, or maybe I have a newer copy that they address this issue. I really don't know, but I don't see it, guys. It's just not there. So as far as bokeh, it is butter. It is absolutely beautiful. I would say it's every bit as good as the Canon, maybe even better. I mean, it really looked good. Really, really good. Now, as far as sharpness was very good. There were some issues, but I'll get into that later. Center sharpness after calibration was really, really dead on, tack sharp. As far as the outer periphery, as far as the outer edge, okay, it was slightly, ever so slightly softer than the Canon. But I would have to say you would really have to get in there at 100%, 200% to pixel peep and see it. Is it a big deal? To me, it really wasn't. It was definitely good enough. Now, as far as saturation and contrast, I would have to give this just a 10 out of 10. It is every bit as good as Canon, maybe even better. Definitely better than the Sigma that I've seen in the past. It really did a great job. Really, really beautiful. Now, as far as the build and the build quality, and the size and how it felt, because that's very important. Now, this lens is actually a little bit wider than the Canon. So the Canon takes like a 77 millimeter, I think, I believe it's 77 millimeter filter, whereas this takes like, I think it's an 82. So it's oversized. It's definitely a thicker piece of glass, but it really felt good in the hands. It's almost like a fatter type of lens. It felt good. The actual build quality itself really felt nice. Nothing rattling. Sometimes you get lenses, especially the zooms, you get like this little stuff moving and whatnot. But it was really solid. As the barrel goes in and out, you can really see that there is a good weather sealing that goes around this. And of course, this is a pristine piece of glass. It's brand new. You're not getting any kind of looseness, but it feels nice. Now, bear in mind, if you take a look at the Canon compared to this Tamron, the actual focus ring and the zoom is exact opposite. So on the Tamron, your zoom is up here in the front and your focus is in the back, whereas with the Canon, it is the exact opposite. Now, it only takes probably about maybe 10, 20 minutes to finally get it through your thick head, that, especially my thick head, that the things are switched up. But that really came really quick. It wasn't really an issue. It is odd when you first start playing with it because it's the exact opposite of what you're used to. But it was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. Now, as far as on the actual body itself, on the side here we have VC, which is your vibration compensation on off, and you also have your AF MF, which is your autofocus manual focus on this side. And then around to the side here you have a lock button. Now, the Canon doesn't have that. I like that it does. I'll tell you about this in just a minute. Also, you have a lock button here on your lens hood. So you cannot take this lens hood off at all, unlike the Canon, unless you depress this lock button and then you can take it off. I like that. You're not going to lose your hood. This is kind of cool. I like the whole locking stuff. This is really quite nice. Now, let me get into this lock a little bit more. Whenever we deal with a zoom lens that's not internally zoomed, okay, let's call it, where you have a barrel that's coming in and out, what happens is over time, it ends up getting weak, all right? And what will happen is when you hold it upside down, it'll just start creeping out like this, all right? This, like I said, is brand new, but it does it also if you're going to carry it with you. For example, for me, when I went on this nature walk, I used a black rapid strap. I love my black rapid, right? So the camera is actually hanging and dangling straight down. If I put this at 24 millimeters like it is, after about maybe 10, 15 steps, it's all of a sudden at 70 millimeters. Is that an issue? Well, it kind of is. Now, of course, I can bring it back up to 24 millimeter and click the lock button, and now it won't come down. That's great. Okay, I like that. In comparison to the Canon that will just slowly come out. My recommendation to Tamron is, I love this, but what would be really cool, guys, really cool, is if you can lock this at any zoom length. So I can bring it to 35, lock it. Bring it to 50, lock it. Why is that? Well, if I'm a product photographer and I'm taking stuff from the top down, right? I don't want to see this thing creeping out like this by the end of the day or by, 2 shots down the road, right? I want it to be able to lock in, let's say to 50 millimeters, hit the lock, and now it stays at 50 millimeters. It doesn't creep out to 55, 60, all the way out to 70. Just an idea. If it's possible, Tamron, do it. I think that would be awesome. Great selling point, especially like I said, if you're a product photographer. Now next, placement of these buttons. I had an issue with it. I kept on changing this from AF to MF. That's obviously because I've used my Canon for countless years and things are in the location where they are. My thumb is obviously going to this exact spot and it's easily changed from AF to MF. All right. Now, that wasn't too much fun, but I finally figured it out. I'm like, what's going on? My finger placement, I changed it and everything was okay. Is that going to be a problem for you? Brand new to this lens? No. But coming from the Canon 24-70, it might be an issue. Where I had the biggest problem with these and the placement of these is inside my custom bracket. When inside the custom bracket, you cannot get to the AF and the VC on and off button. Or if you do, it's like you can barely get there with the tip of your finger. And if you're like, for example, in a wedding or someplace where it's dark, it's going to be really hard to make these changes. All right. Now, that's an issue if you're using a custom bracket. A lot of you are not. But if you are, bear in mind, as you can see, it is difficult to change it because of the placement of these buttons in comparison to, for example, the Canon button. So now where we got into an issue with autofocus was not the lens's fault, it was my fault. All right. I ran out of the studio on a spur of a moment to go on this nature walk. And I didn't think about calibrating this lens to all my bodies before leaving. I always do, but I didn't do that. And I paid for it later in post-production. So many of the images that I got, especially the really tight images, almost like macro-esque, images that I got wide open at 2.8, all right? We really saw a lot of missed focus. Why is that? Guys, I've told you guys this in the back. You know that I'm the focusing guy. You know I made the focus pyramid for autofocus lens calibration. And I've been a proponent of calibration forever. Not just because I made the tool, but I don't care what tool you use. It is so mission critical. Why is that? Well, every time you connect a lens to a camera body, there's a slight variance on how they come together. And that variance produces either front focus or back focus. Okay? So when your camera goes beep beep and it says you're locked into that specific spot, when you take the shot, you're like, that's not the spot that I was locked at. All right? It's not the spot. You know, when you take a look at, let's say you took a model shot and you got right in there to her eyelashes and you're like, they're dead on. You take the shot, the eyelashes are blurry, but the tip of her nose is dead, just tack sharp. You can see a little fuzz on it. That's a perfect example of front focusing. Now, that's what ended up happening with me. As you can see, some of the images that I've taken that are rock solid, I had to really sort through them, especially like the B image here. I really had to get in there to get a version that was good. I ended up shooting this one slightly off. I was focusing on a flower slightly behind it to get the B tack sharp. It's something that you really need to consider. So many people come to me, Joe, I've purchased this $2,500 lens. It's a fast piece of glass, 2.8 or a 1.8 or 1.4 or even a 1.2. All right. And the images that I'm producing are just blurry compared to the kit lens that cost me $300. Why is it? The reason it is because fast glass depth of field is just minuscule. So if it's off by a slight amount, your image is going to be off. All right. That's why people are like, I'm producing worse images, right? And I have a $2,000-$3,000 piece of glass. The problem here is, guys, you have to calibrate it. Anything, in my view, is anything below 4.0, all right, it needs to be calibrated, all right? 4.5, 4.0, 3.2, 2.8, 1.8, 1.4, 1.2. You have to calibrate it. If you're not calibrating it, you're throwing your money away, guys. So like I said, I don't care who you use. You could use a focus pyramid I invented, or you could use somebody else's, but calibrate your lenses, all right? The manufacturers, I don't care who it is, Sony, Nikon, Canon, they all come with custom calibration built into the software, into the firmware. What does that mean? That means that even now, before, you would only, let's say with this piece of glass, we would only be able to calibrate it in one location. So this is a 24-70. We used to calibrate it at like maybe midpoint, maybe around 55 millimeters. We'd calibrate it there. So it would be pretty good at the end and we'd be pretty good at the beginning. Now with the modern bodies, we have dual calibration. So you can calibrate all the way at the top at 70 and you can also calibrate at 24. So it doesn't matter where you're using the glass, it's going to be tack sharp every time. And what's great is once you calibrate it, every time that lens is stuck onto the body's like, hey, that's a Tamron 2.8, 24-70. Let's go ahead and do +5 calibration at 70 millimeters and -2 calibration at 24, or whatever the case might be. So you're always getting tack sharp images, and you're basically getting a sharp spot exactly where you're locking up. That is exactly where it's going to be sharp, not in front of it or behind it. So anyways, guys, that's the only issues that I had with this glass. If I was to go and buy a 24-70 today, would I go with the 24-70 from Canon, my manufacturer glass, or would I go with this Tamron? I would have to say I would go with the Tamron glass because I will save about $500 to $600, and the difference between the two is so minuscule that there's no reason to go dump $500-600 extra. Okay, I really do think that this Tamron glass in some ways exceeded, all right, did better than the Canon. And in some other ways, like for example, the outer periphery, the outer edges where there's slightly softness, it really, for the most part, doesn't matter for me. So I personally would recommend, out of all mid-range, I've tried a lot of 24-70s, guys. Trust me. This piece of glass, the Tamron, is the one that I would go with. And I would make sure also that you get the G2, because the G1 was okay, but this one is by far, I think, the best that's currently out in the market. Bear in mind, it sounds like an ad spot for Tamron, but it is not. I am not, sponsored by or in any way getting paid by Tamron. This is just my personal opinion, period. I think this is by far the best piece of glass, and for the money, hands down, you should pick this one up. I don't really make those recommendations very often, but for this one, I would have to say this is by far the way to go. So anyways, guys, that is my thoughts on the Tamron 24-70. I really did enjoy this review. I enjoyed going out there and just shooting, getting out there in nature, and just playing around with this piece of glass. Really, really amazing. So, guys, if you enjoy my content, as always, throw me a big thumbs up. That would be stellar. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you can get all my content when it becomes available. And don't forget to share my content with your friends, family, colleagues, any photographer, or anyone that might enjoy the content. Please share it with your community. And finally, as I said before, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find a lot of photography tools that I've invented for photographers like me and like you over the years. Maybe there's something there that you might like. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. We'll see you in the next one.